Can Google's Pixel tablet compete with the iPad 10? There is about a $50 difference. Well, there's not really. We'll talk about that more later on. But anyways, I've used both of these tablets for gaming, for browsing the web, for watching videos, social media, and for office type work. So which one is actually the better choice? Right off the bat, we see differences in the overall design. The iPad 10 received an update this year, and it now has rounded corners and squared off edges, just like every other current iPad. The Pixel tablet, on the other hand, has rounded edges, and the transition to the back is similar to what we had on the iPad 9. Now, both tablets are solidly built with an aluminum back and frame, but the Pixel has a really nice nano ceramic coating, which is comfortable to hold. It does a good job at rejecting fingerprints, and it's available in porcelain, which is the one that I have, and then also in rose and hazel. The iPad 10 has brushed aluminum on the sides and the back. This year, Apple decided to go with more vibrant colors in addition to the traditional silver, and I absolutely love the pink one that I got. As far as the size, the Pixel tablet is longer and narrower, but the size is close enough to where it doesn't really impact portability. And we'll talk about the implications of the different aspect ratios later on in the video. For biometric authentication, both tablets use a fingerprint sensor, which is integrated into the power button. Both have worked really well for me, and the only slight difference in terms of user experience is that on the iPad, you have to either tap the screen or press the button first to wake the tablet and then authenticate. On the Pixel tablet, you can just place your finger on the sensor and it will wake the tablet and authenticate. Both tablets have a USB-C port for charging and accessories, and both have 4 speaker grills, but the Pixel tablet actually has 4 speakers, whereas the iPad 10 only has 2. In terms of audio quality, neither one is amazing. I mean, these are lower end tablets. I might end up giving the edge to the Pixel tablet. The iPad does get louder and probably has a little more bass, but the Pixel has better clarity and it's a bit fuller, so it has slightly less of that tinny sound. Also, because of where the speakers are located on the iPad, when you're playing games or watching movies in landscape mode, you're actually covering them with your hands, which makes the sound a little more muffled. Now, moving on to the displays, both are 60Hz LCD displays. The Pixel is marginally larger, has a higher resolution, higher pixel density, and both displays have a typical peak brightness of 500 nits, so they perform about the same when you're outside or when you have to deal with reflections. Now, both displays are very good for entry-level flagship displays. Both support 16.7 million colors. They have very similar bezel size, and the Pixel tablet might be a tad bit sharper if you're really pixel peeping, and it has 2 color modes to choose from, natural and adaptive. We are getting different aspect ratios here. The iPad 10 has a 3:2 aspect ratio versus 16:10 on the Pixel tablet. When you're watching movies or videos, the image on the Pixel tablet will fill a bit more of the display, and you'll have slightly smaller black bars at the top and the bottom. Of course, if you zoom in to fill the screen, then you won't get letterboxing with either one, but you'll lose less of the left and right sides of the image with the Pixel tablet. Overall, we're not getting high-end display features here like 120Hz adaptive refresh rate, an OLED or Liquid Retina XDR displays, but where these tablets are positioned, these are good displays and they will work great for surfing the web, productivity, social media, watching content, and for gaming. Now, another important difference is the way that the displays are constructed. The Pixel tablet has a fully laminated display, meaning that the display, the touch layer, and the cover glass are fused together into a single display assembly. The iPad 10 has an air gap between the display and a combination of cover glass and touch layer. For most things like watching movies, surfing the web, or playing games, it's not really something that you're going to notice unless you really look for it. But when you start using the Stylus, then things change a little bit. On the iPad 10, you can see separation between the tip of the pencil and the content that's being created, especially if you're looking at an angle. On the Pixel tablet, the image looks like it's painted on top of the glass, and the tip of the stylus looks like it's touching the content that's being created. And speaking of the 2 different stylus options, the iPad 10 is compatible with the 1st generation Apple Pencil, which costs $100, and the Pixel tablet is compatible with USI 2.0 stylus pens, and the one that I chose cost me $60. I'm by no means an artist, but I know a lot of illustrators, and I know that they love the Apple Pencil. And while I think that Apple should have made the iPad 10 10 compatible with the 2nd generation pencil, it's hard for me to choose a winner here because there's no standard stylus for the Pixel tablet, so it could depend on which one you end up buying. I will say that the aspect ratio of the iPad 10 makes it a little more comfortable to take notes in portrait mode because it's a bit wider. As far as keyboard cases, there's no official keyboard case from Google at this time, and my guess is that third-party options will appear on the market in the near future. For the iPad 10, Apple made a new Magic Keyboard Folio. The keys are great, the trackpad is as good as it gets on a keyboard case, and I love the fact that you can remove the keyboard while still protecting the back. Having said that, it is $250, which seems kind of expensive for someone who's looking to buy an entry-level iPad. Of course, you can connect Bluetooth keyboards to both devices, but still, if you want the convenience of a keyboard case, that's a clear win for the iPad. At the same time, the Pixel tablet comes with a charging speaker dock. Now, this accessory sells for $129 if you were to buy it separately. It charges the tablet wirelessly, it raises it off your desk, it puts it at a comfortable viewing angle, and it acts as a speaker when the tablet is docked, so you're getting even better audio. It can also replace a Nest Hub Max if that's something that you were considering getting. Now, there are definitely some opportunities for improvement. For example, Google could have made the speaker Wi-Fi enabled so you can use it with a phone or when the tablet is not docked. They could have also made the sound quality a little better for the price, but in any case, it's something that you don't get with the iPad 10, so I'll give the edge to the Pixel tablet. Moving on to the camera system, the Pixel has a very basic camera system with an 8 megapixel front-facing camera and an 8 megapixel rear-facing camera, both of which offer 1080p 30. The iPad 10 has a more advanced camera system. We're getting a higher resolution 12 megapixel rear-facing camera, which can record at up to 4K 60, and a 12 megapixel front-facing camera. So ultimately, if you use your tablet camera for video, these are important advantages. Now, I pretty much only use mine for video calls, and here's a quick sample. Here's a camera and microphone test of the iPad 10 and the Pixel tablet. This should give you a pretty good idea of the type of image quality that you're going to get and the type of audio quality that you should expect from each tablet. In both cases, the front-facing camera is on the long edge, so you're always properly framed, and it looks like you're looking at the person that you're talking to. Something that I really like about the Pixel tablet is all the features that you get inside the camera app. So you have things like Photo on Blur, which can help you sharpen images, and Magic Eraser, which can help you remove unwanted items from your pictures. Now, moving on to processing power, the iPad 10 is powered by the A14 Bionic, has 4 gigabytes of RAM. The Pixel tablet uses the Tensor G2 chip, and it comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Let's quickly look at benchmarks and then move on to real-life use. The iPad 10 outscores the Pixel tablet for single and multi-core performance, and the gap widens even more when we look at GPU performance. But how does that actually translate to the real world? For most things, I haven't experienced a noticeable difference. Both tablets are snappy, the UI is very responsive, apps open quickly, and switching between apps and multitasking works well. Having said that, whenever all things are equal, I would always opt for the more powerful device because apps are going to evolve and become more power hungry over time. So I'd rather have as much headroom as possible in terms of CPU and GPU performance. And I'm curious to see how the Pixel tablet performs as it ages. Now, speaking of that, I've always liked the fact that Apple has outstanding long-term support when it comes to updates. So it was great to see Google offer at least 5 years of security and software updates. Looking at battery life, both have been very good for me. The iPad is rated for 10 hours and the Pixel tablet for 12 hours. And over the past few weeks, I would give the slight edge to the Pixel tablet. Now, I already mentioned that the Pixel tablet can be charged using the hub. Both devices can be charged via USB-C. Neither comes with a charger, but the iPad comes with a USB-C cable. The charging speaker dock for the Pixel tablet does come with its own charger, but it's not USB-C, so you can't use it to speed up charging on the tablet itself, and maybe that's something that Google can do with future iterations. Now, when it comes to multitasking, neither is really designed to excel at this, although both of them do run Excel. You can use apps side by side. Both have a UI dock that you can use to quickly switch between apps, but the iPad has more advanced features like pop-up and slide over windows. Now, both tablets allow you to share files with nearby devices, but the iPad can be used as an external display with Apple's Sidecar, and if you want to learn more about that, check out this video. What the Pixel tablet has going for it is hub mode when the tablet is docked. This essentially turns it into a smart hub. And even more important is the ability to create multiple users. In a typical household, you probably want to let more than one person use the same tablet, and at the same time, you don't really want them to have access to your apps and your information. With the Pixel tablet, you can set up multiple users and each one will get their own apps. And by the way, if two people are using the same app, Android only installs one version, so you're not using double the storage. Now, speaking of apps in general, this is an area where the iPad still comes out ahead. The Google Play Store and the Apple App Store have tons of options for pretty much everything that you need. Overall, I'm still gonna give the edge to the iPad 10 because the apps seem to be better optimized for a tablet. I've said in other videos that the gap continues to close, but a lot of Android apps still look like stretched out versions of the phone apps. Several creative apps like Affinity Photo, DaVinci Resolve, and Procreate are only available for the iPad, but it is great to see that there's an Android version of LumaFusion in the Play Store. But when we look at gaming, in most cases, the games themselves worked very well on both tablets. I was able to use the same settings in PUBG, so HDR for graphics with extreme for frame rate, or Ultra HD for graphics and Ultra for frame rates. Asphalt 9 worked really well, the graphics looked great on both tablets, and gameplay was smooth. And even more demanding games like Genshin Impact were playable on both devices, but that was one example where the additional processing power of the iPad 10 was helpful. And again, it's an indicator of the iPad performing better for longer. For audio, the 4 speakers on the Pixel tablet end up being better because they aren't covered by your hands, and neither tablet has a headphone jack, so you'll end up having to use a USB-C headset, an adapter, or a wireless headset. Now, both tablets also work with the Xbox Game Pass app, so you can use an Xbox controller, play any of the available games, and as you'd expect, both performed quite well. But there was one major difference, and in order for you to not waste your money and decide which one is a better value, we have to look at the price. In the US, the iPad 10 sells for $449, and the Pixel tablet sells for $499. As I mentioned, that includes the charging speaker dock, and you can typically find better prices for both tablets by using the links in the description. Now, the one major issue is that the iPad 10 only comes with 64 gigabytes of storage, and the Pixel tablet starts with 128 gigs. A game like Genshin Impact takes up about 24 gigabytes right now. PUBG Mobile is another 11, and iPadOS is almost 9 gigs. So you can see how things quickly add up and why it would be nice to have 128. If you want to go with 256 gigabytes, which is the other option for both tablets, that'll cost you an extra $150 on the iPad 10 versus $100 on the Pixel tablet, at which point they are the same price. One other feature to consider is that only the iPad has a cellular version, and if you end up doing that, it's 5G. The iPad 10 is better if you're looking for a more modern design with brighter colors, a more powerful chip, a more convenient aspect ratio for handwritten note-taking, a better camera system, an optional keyboard case, more advanced and refined multitasking, improved gaming performance, or if you want cellular connectivity. If you want a super useful charging speaker dock, a slightly better and fully laminated display, dual functionality as a smart hub, slightly better battery life, and the versatility of multi-users, get yourself a Pixel tablet. Now you should check out this comparison. Click on my face to subscribe. You know what I always say, buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.